before, about 15 years back, I would not have touched these patients. I could touch these patients and do a full coverage only because I could recruit body hair. Most of my colleagues and very well informed subscribers on this channel will vouch for the fact that increasingly we are not anymore getting clear-cut cases which fit the bill for a hair transplant. In my practice on a daily basis, I see more and more patients now with each passing year who have extensive baldness, and even those who have lesser grades of baldness, say grade 2 and grade 3, their scalp donor is miniaturizing. Like the climate change of today, which is playing havoc with the environment and our natural resources, the truth is that the scalp donor is also drying up. And there are operators in this industry who still continue to harp on the fact that the scalp donor is permanent. So today, more than ever, you have to have a holistic plan for management of your hair loss. You cannot afford to change doctors at the drop of a hat. Many people who comment on my videos are getting treated by somebody else and they want follow-up by another doctor. They want the first procedure to be done by some person and the second procedure by a totally different doctor in another country. They do not understand the fact that the doctor who has seen your case right from the start is best equipped to handle your baldness in the long term. Because hair loss is not a simple fact that you get a hair transplant done once and you're done. You have to be followed up for many, many years. I have patients for last 15 years, 25 years who are still under follow-up, whose treatment I keep tweaking every 3 or 4 months and advising them on future hair transplants since I know what was their donor area, since I know what are their objectives and their goals, since I know their ability to comply to medication. So hair loss management is far more complex than some patients think it to be. So with baldness being so extensive today, baldness happening in young age, the scalp donor is truly stretched. Without adding finasteride or dutasteride to stabilize the baldness and without recruiting body grafts, most people today who have baldness at 25 are unfit for a hair transplant. As most of you know, I have been doing hair transplants along with body hair for many, many years now, almost 15 years. We were one of the first clinics to start body hair transplant in India. And we have been doing mega sessions of scalp and body hair almost routinely for the last 15 years. And the technique has come a long way. We can harvest more and more grafts in a single day than we did earlier. And this is because the skill of the team has improved, the skill of the doctor has improved, and the equipment has become more and more refined. So today, body hair transplant has found its rightful place in the armamentarium of the full-time hair transplant surgeon. And over the years, with more and more acceptability, more and more cases being done utilizing body hair transplants, the acceptability of body hair transplants today is like never before in the history of hair transplant. So just for instance, I do 7 cases in a week. So out of these 7 cases, almost 5 to 6 cases are cases in which body hair transplants are used. This could be biased because most cases that come to me are extensive baldness, because people know that I do a lot of body hair transplant. Also, I get a lot of revision cases. So this observation can be biased because in both these circumstances, in extensive baldness on one hand and in revision cases, coverage is impossible without utilizing body hair. So what are the common areas from where body hair can be harvested? What are my preferences? The most preferred site for body hair transplant for me is the shadow area of the beard and the upper neck. Rarely in very fair skin, we also go onto the cheeks and the sideburns. But this is not usual in darker skin types, especially people who are not likely to keep a beard. The second site which is most preferred by me is the chest. The chest between the 2 mounds. Chest hair outside these areas are wispy thin and they rarely, if ever, survive the transfer. Very occasionally, patients who have very thick belly hair and limb hair, is upper limb and lower limb, the arms and the legs, can be candidates for body hair transplant. But these body grafts have different life cycles, very prolonged life cycles. This the patient has to realize because it takes that much longer for the hair to grow in the scalp. So with wider acceptance of body hair transplant and skill acquisition by the surgeon and his team, large mega sessions of body hair are done today routinely. In a typical patient who has an average donor scalp, average beard donor and average chest donor, routinely we do about 3,500 to 4,000 scalp grafts, up to 2,000 beard grafts from the shadow area of the beard and upper neck, and about 600 to 1,000 chest grafts over a 2-day session. If more grafts can be harvested, especially in patients who have a lot of hair in the scalp, a lot of hair in the beard and the chest, a 2-day to 3-day session can also be required. While doing body hair transplants, the following points have to be taken into consideration. Body grafts are more susceptible to traumatic handling and to desiccation, that is drying when out of the body. Unlike in the scalp, when we harvest grafts from the neck, from the cheeks, the sideburns, there are a lot of important vessels and nerves underneath. So it is only a qualified person who has a strong understanding of facial anatomy who should be doing the procedure. Body grafts have very different morphology, physiology and therefore aesthetics as compared to scalp hair. Body hair grafts are seldom done in isolation because they are different in character. They can be done in isolation only in patients who have scalp micropigmentation and who want to fortify the result through low density FUE hair transplantation, and they know fully well that they will not be able to grow the hair long. Body hair taken from the cheeks and the sideburns in darker skin types can lead to visible scarring, especially patients who wear a shaved look, and this is more so in those with darker skin types. This is an important consideration. People with tendency to keloid formation should be excluded from body hair transplant, especially patients with darker skin types from South Asia or patients of African origin. One has to be very careful. Now, body hair cannot be placed just anywhere in the scalp while doing plantation. Body hair have specific geographical utility. The leading edge always has to be scalp hair, single scalp hair. Just behind the leading few edges, one can put beard grafts mixed with scalp grafts. Beard grafts do not go well in the crown area because they have the tendency to be unruly, to be wiry, springy. They stand out. So for the crown area, only scalp grafts and chest grafts, in my opinion, have been useful for an aesthetic result. Body hair thrive in an environment where there is a lot of DHT. And this is a paradox because scalp hair in a person who has the baldness gene will fall off because DHT is inimical to scalp hair. So as a corollary, if you're getting only body hair grafts done, there is no need to take oral finasteride. And this is one of the reasons why in most people, even those who have lesser grades of baldness, I do insist that besides scalp hair, they should get a sprinkling of body hair just behind the hairline because body hair are resistant to DHT. This is to ensure long-term longevity of a hair transplant result because today a patient might be taking oral finasteride. Perspectives keep changing and tomorrow he might stop finasteride. And if his baldness is not stable, it will affect his scalp hair. However, the body hair will not be affected if he stops finasteride. So this is the utility of body hair even in those who do not have extensive baldness. And the last point to note is that people who have extensive grades of baldness because of the effect of DHT on their receptors, these are the same patients who have a lot of body hair. Because when the DHT stimulus is high, this DHT stimulus is a good environment in which body hair thrive. So therefore we see patients with extensive baldness but hirsute, backs full of hair, belly full of hair, chest full of hair, arms and legs having lush growth of hair. So to end the talk, I would just like to state that body hair transplants have greatly augmented the limits of coverage in extensive baldness. It has enhanced results and it has improved the longevity of hair transplant results. Body hair are a great utility in my practice, like it is in many other practices around the world. And with more and more patients landing up with extensive baldness, if we do not have body hair to fall back upon, I think 95% of the patients that we see today are not fit for a hair transplant if you truthfully, honestly evaluate the case. And that's all for the day. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, I'll be too happy to answer them. Just drop a comment in the comment section below, and God bless you.